Good morning and welcome to the Daily Meditation Bible. I'm Joel Miller and we are walking through the Bible in a year. And today is February the 18th, 2024, and we are in the book of Leviticus. And this book is about God revealing himself to his people. If you recall, they've been slaves in Egypt and they had some hard taskmasters over them, pretty much telling them everything that they were going to do. Telling them when they would eat, what they would eat, when they would sleep, how they would function. And now they have witnessed with their own eyes how God totally crushed their enemies, how he crushed Pharaoh. And as a result, other people groups feared them because of the testimony and how the word spread about how God destroyed their enemies. And now this is a time for them of learning, a time of discovery for them, and they must learn not only how to deal with God, but also how to deal and relate to one another. And so they are learning that, for one, he's a holy God. He's not like the person in the tent next to them. And because, that person may, given the chance, lie about them. They may take something from their tent when they're not there. They may steal one of their sheep and say it's theirs when they know it's not theirs. And we think, well, this is ancient biblical times. Surely they weren't doing things like this, but absolutely, yes, they were. And the Lord was addressing these things as he was instructing them on making sacrifices and atoning for their sins. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still dealing with fallen human beings. And we may think that these things didn't happen in ancient times, but you would be and I would be absolutely wrong. Of course they did. Of course people lied. Of course people cheated and fornicated and all sorts of things. And God addressed these things, and he told them in depth what they could and could not do, and things like honoring your parents. I was raised up to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. I was taught this, and its basis was the fact that we were to honor our parents. And so as we go through Leviticus, at times it's very difficult to digest because it's filled with sacrifices and blood and death, and you hear things like the wringing of the neck of a bird and sprinkling the blood on the side of the altar. And when you filter this through modern society and modern culture, it's definitely difficult to digest. You think, what is God doing here? But what he is doing is building into the children of Israel, into their DNA, that he is not like sinful man. He is perfect. He's holy. And we, if we are to walk with him, are more so them at that time, if they were to walk with him, that they must become like him, meaning recognizing sin, rejecting sin, and understanding that there's consequences for sin. We are also reading in the book of Mark where we're seeing the power of Jesus on display. It is being displayed where even the unseen and unclean spirits are compelled to speak out in agony and great fear when Jesus comes near. They are saying things like, "We know who you are." These spirits are terrified of Jesus, and they are crying out in terror, and Jesus is commanding them to be quiet. In modern society, Jesus is often depicted as some weak, mild-mannered, nice, and docile person who just walks on the earth and loves people. And it is true that Jesus is love, God is love, but it's also true that he is fierce and powerful, so much so that when unclean spirits came near him, they panicked. And we are talking about spirits who were controlling and manipulating human beings, but when Jesus walked into the room, they cried out in terror when he came on the scene. He is tremendously powerful to the point that he sent out his disciples, and these were common men, and they were sent out, and they cast out demons because of the power that he bestowed upon them. And it wasn't too long before this, they were just working in secular jobs, fishing and farming and taking up taxes. And now they're actually speaking to demons with the power of Christ and casting these demons out of people. This is a fascinating time in human history. So let us dig in and give our hearts to the hearing and seeking of God's word, which is on display today. We are beginning our reading in Leviticus, the sixth chapter, beginning in verse 1 through chapter 7, verse 27. And then we're moving into the New Testament reading in the book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 7 through verse 30. And then Psalms, chapter 37, verses 1 through 11. And finally, Proverbs, chapter 10, verses 3 and 4. Beginning in Leviticus, the 6th chapter, beginning in verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "If anyone sins and commits a breach of faith against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor in a matter of deposit or security, or through robbery, or if he has oppressed his neighbor, or has found something lost and lied about it, swearing falsely in any of all the things that the people do and sin thereby, if he has sinned and has realized his guilt and will restore what he took by robbery, or what he got by oppression, or the deposit that was committed to him, or the lost thing that he found, or anything about which he has sworn falsely, he shall restore it in full, and shall add a fifth to it, and give it to him to whom it belongs on the day he realizes his guilt. And he shall bring to the priest as his compensation to the Lord a ram without blemish out of the flock, or its equivalent, for a guilt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord, and he shall be forgiven for any of the things that one may do and thereby become guilty. The Lord said to Moses, saying, "Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering shall be on the hearth on the altar all night until the morning, and the fire of the altar shall be kept burning on it. And the priest shall put on his linen garments, and put his linen undergarments on his body. And he shall take up the ashes to which the fire has reduced the burnt offerings on the altar, and put them beside the altar. Then he shall take off his garments, and put on other garments, and carry the ashes beside the camp to a clean place. The fire on the altar shall be kept burning on it, it shall not go out. And the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and he shall arrange the burnt offering on it, and shall burn on it the fat of the peace offering. Fire shall be kept burning on the altar continually, it shall not go out. And this is the law of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall offer it before the Lord in front of the altar. And one shall take from it a handful of fine flour of the grain offering, and its oil, and all the frankincense that is on the grain offering, and burn this and its memorial portion on the altar, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And the rest of it Aaron and his sons shall eat. It shall be eaten unleavened in a holy place. In the court of the tent of meetings they shall eat it. It shall not be baked with leaven. I have given it as their portion of my food offering. Every male among the children of Aaron may eat of it, as decreed forever throughout your generations, from the Lord's food offering. Whatever touches them shall become holy. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, This is the offering that Aaron and his sons shall offer to the Lord on the day when he is anointed, 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a regular grain offering, half of it in the morning and half in the evening. It shall be made with oil on a griddle. You shall bring it well mixed in baked pieces like a grain offering, and offer for a pleasing aroma to the Lord. The priest from among Aaron's son, who is anointed to succeed him, shall offer it to the Lord as decreed forever. The whole of it shall be burned. Every grain offering of a priest shall be wholly burned. It shall not be eaten. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the sin offering. In the place where the burnt offering is killed, shall the sin offering be killed before the Lord. It is most holy. The priest who offer it for sin shall eat it. In a holy place it shall be eaten, in the court of the tent of meeting. Whatever touches its flesh shall be holy. And when any of its blood is splashed on a garment, you shall wash that on which it was splashed in a holy place. And the earthenware vessel in which it is boiled shall be broken. But if it is boiled in a bronze vessel, that shall be scoured and rinsed in water. Every male among the priests may eat of it. It is most holy. But no sin offering shall be eaten from which any blood is brought into the tent of meeting to make atonement in the holy place. It shall be burned with fire. This is the law of the guilt offering. It is most holy. In the place where they kill the burnt offering, they shall kill the guilt offering, and its blood shall be thrown against the side of the altar. And all its fat shall be offered, the fat tail, the fat that covers the entrails, the two kidneys, with the fat that is on them at the loins, and the long lobe of the liver that he shall remove with the kidneys. The priest shall burn them on the altar as a food offering to the Lord. It is a guilt offering. Every male among the priests may eat of it. It shall be eaten in a holy place. It is most holy. The guilt offering is just like the sin offering. There is one law for them. The priests who make atonement with it shall have it. And the priest who offer any man's burnt offering shall have for himself the skin of the burnt offering that he has offered. And every grain offering baked in the oven, and all that is prepared on a pan or a griddle shall belong to the priests who offer it. And every grain offering mixed with oil or dry shall be shared equally among all the sons of Aaron. And this is the law of the sacrifice of peace offering that one may offer to the Lord. If he offers it for a thanksgiving, then he shall offer with the thanksgiving sacrifice unleavened loaves mixed with oil, unleavened wafers smeared with oil, and loaves of fine flour well mixed with oil. With the sacrifice of his peace offering for thanksgiving, he shall bring his offering with loaves of unleavened bread, and from it he shall offer one loaf from each offering as a gift to the Lord. It shall belong to the priest who throws the blood of the peace offering, and the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offering for thanksgiving shall be eaten on the day of his offering. He shall not leave any of it until the morning. But if the sacrifice of his offering is a vow offering or a free will offering, it shall be eaten on the day that he offers his sacrifice. And on the next day, what remains of it shall be eaten. But what remains of the flesh of the sacrifice on the third day shall be burned up with fire. If any of the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offering is eaten on the third day, he who offers it shall not be accepted, neither shall it be credited to him. It is tainted, and he who eats of it shall bear his iniquity. Flesh that touches any unclean thing shall not be eaten. It shall be burned up with fire. All who are clean may eat flesh, but the person who eats of the flesh of the sacrifice of the Lord's peace offering while an uncleanliness is on him, that person shall be cut off from his people. And if anyone touches an unclean thing, whether human uncleanness or an unclean beast or an unclean detestable creature, and then eats some flesh from the sacrifice of the Lord's peace offering, that person shall be cut off from his people. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, saying, You shall eat no fat of ox or sheep or goat, the fat of an animal that dies of itself, and the fat of one that is torn by beasts may be put to any other use, but on no account shall you eat it. For every person who eats of the fat of an animal, of which a food offering may be made to the Lord, shall be cut off from his people. Moreover, you shall eat no blood, whatever, whether of fowl or of animal, in any of your dwelling places. Whoever eats any blood, that person shall be cut off from his people. Our New Testament reading comes from the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 3, verses 7 through 30. Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the sea, and a great crowd followed from Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem and Idumea, and from beyond the Jordan, and from around Tyre and Sidon. When the great crowd heard all that he was doing, they came to him, and he told his disciples to have a boat ready for him because of the crowds, lest they crush him. For he had healed many, so that all who had diseases pressed around him to touch him. And whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." And he strictly ordered them not to make him known. And he went up on the mountain and called to him those whom he desired, and they came to him. And he appointed 12, whom he also named apostles, so that they might be with him, and he might send them out to preach and have authority to cast out demons. He appointed the 12, Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, to whom he gave the name Boanerges, that is, sons of thunder, Andrew and Philip and Bartholomew and Matthew and Thomas and James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus and Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Then he went home, and the crowds gathered again, so that they could not even eat. And when his family heard it, they went out to seize him, for they were saying, "He is out of his mind." And the scribes who came down from Jerusalem were saying, "He is possessed by Beelzebub, and by the prince of demons he cast out demons." And he called them to him and said to them in parables, "How can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. And if Satan has risen up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand, but is coming to an end. But no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man. Then indeed he may plunder his house. Truly I say to you, all sin will be forgiven the children of man, and whatever blasphemies they utter. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit never has forgiveness, but is guilty of an eternal sin, for they were saying, "He has an unclean spirit." Reading from Psalms, the 37th chapter, verses 1 through 11. Fret not yourselves because of evildoers, be not envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your ways to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourselves over the one who prospers in his way, over the man who carries out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourself. It tends only to evil. For the evildoer shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the land and delight themselves in abundant peace. Reading Proverbs chapter 10, verses 3 and 4. The Lord does not let the righteous go hungry, but he thwarts the craving of the wicked. A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent make rich. Well, thank you for joining me today for the Daily Meditation Bible. It is an honor to be with you today, and I very much look forward to being with you tomorrow. Listen, I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day, and I look forward to being with you again soon. God bless. Have a wonderful Sabbath.